Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin in the Northwest Territories, where a mistrial has been declared in the case of a man accused of killing a Betchacon teenager. Zach Lafferty is charged with second-degree murder in the death of 17-year-old Dejan Drybones in 2023. After days of deliberations, the Crown and defense lawyers confirmed the jury was unable to come to a unanimous decision on Sunday. Lafferty's lawyer, Kimberly Ariel, says her client is disappointed by the outcome but appreciates the jury's time. A new trial date is yet to be determined. In Nunavut, the bail hearing for a man charged in connection with the death of a 15-year-old girl in Iqaluit in 1986 has been pushed back. Jopi Atsikdak is next scheduled to appear in court on Tuesday, December 2nd. Atsikdak is charged with second-degree murder related to the death of Marianne Birmingham. He was previously denied bail. The jury trial of a Rankin Inlet man charged with first-degree murder will be held in August of next year. Jack Ikwalak is accused of first-degree murder in relation to a death in the community in June of 2024. The RCMP initially deemed the death suspicious. They charged Ikwalak a day later. At the time, police issued a shelter-in-place alert and said Ikwalak initially refused to surrender. A criminal case against Nunavut's power utility has been pushed back to November 17th. The Kudlik Energy Corporation is facing 9 charges from the Workers' Safety and Compensation Commission. The charges are in connection to the death of a worker at the power plant in Nauyat, Nunavut, a year ago. They include failing to take all reasonable precautions to ensure the safety of every person at the worksite, failing to sufficiently and competently supervise work, and failing to implement safe work procedures. New research has found elevated levels of copper and lead in some buildings in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. Researchers from York University collaborated with high school students in the community. They found issues predominantly with water in people's tanks and taps, rather than at the treatment plant. Of the 50 buildings sampled, nearly a fifth had copper or lead that exceeded national recommendations. Since 1990, the federal government has restricted the use of lead solder in plumbing. But the researchers say it isn't just the older buildings in Cambridge Bay that are affected.
What this suggests is that these are building-specific issues, and there are probably things about those buildings, specifically their domestic plumbing systems, that are, for example, might have some lead-bearing components in them.
Health Canada says exposure to lead can cause irreversible neurological damage, especially among infants and young children. A student who took part in the research says he hopes the findings can spark conversations about water management in the community.
The much older homes, because you don't know how old are the pipes. Have they been replaced or have they been cleaned?
The Nunavut Housing Corporation owns 324 housing units in Cambridge Bay. It says it doesn't do routine testing of metals in buildings unless there's a specific reason. That could be from a complaint or for a regulatory study. There is only one highway out of Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. And now community members are renewing the call for a second way out through northeastern Alberta, especially after wildfires in 2023 showed how quickly the town could be cut off from escape. Carla Ulrich has that story.
Residents of Fort Smith have been talking about an all-season road through Wood Buffalo National Park for decades. In 2019, leaders from both sides of the border met to discuss it. They signed an agreement to keep working together on the plan, but COVID-19 hit soon after and put any work on hold.
The Mikisew Cree really stepping forward and offering to facilitate office space for the group to work from. So we were really hopeful at the time that this would really start moving forward. But I was basically when the onslaught of COVID really took all the momentum away. People weren't able really to meet and follow through on pursuing it.
Now, the community is looking for an update. One resident says they don't even need to build a new road because there is already one there, and that it mainly needs brushing, new bridges, and regular upkeep.
It was basically the main highway from this Alberta to the NWT, and it came through Garden River to Peace Point to get the mail delivery and the food supplies and stuff up here, other than the boat and the barges that came up.
Bolio says a road through Wood Buffalo National Park wouldn't just make travel safer. It could also reconnect people to a part of their history. She says Peace Point was once home to several families, a store, and even a school. She says reopening the old shipping route could make the area accessible again.
They have their own little power plant and everything there. It used to be good for the farming business. They had a storage shed there for their farming supplies. And we had a lot of the elders from Fort Chip that lived there.
Couvret says the road was previously pitched for business and tourism, but after recent wildfires and evacuations, he said safety is now the priority. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
Wildfire season is over in the Northwest Territories, but recent research predicts more difficult seasons ahead for decades to come. Sarah St. Pierre has more.
A recent study predicts wildfire seasons will only get more intense for the rest of Canada, but not for the Northwest Territories. Unfortunately, that's because the risk of wildfire in any given year is already almost as high as it can get, and it's expected to stay that way, all the way into the next century. It's also not the only unique thing about the wildfire forecast for the territory. A different study has found that in the subarctic, the state of vegetation before a fire, soil moisture, and wind exposure are what drives wildfires compared to air temperature, rains, and previous fires further south.
If you have diseased or dead vegetation, that's a source of fuel for the fire. So that's the sort of reason why the kind of pre-fire state of the vegetation is important. We also found that sort of soil moisture was important. And again, the drier the soil, right, the easier it is to get a fire going.
Now, these studies were conducted by researchers in the south, but the executive director of the Casio Gotne Foundation says that these findings track with what his team of land guardians have been seeing and what they expect for the future.
For ourselves right now, the guardians are all trained to fight fires and so on. And I remember talking with the leadership in Fort Good Hope maybe a year ago, and they wanted to, start up their own fire brigade. And if we, the guardians, take on this role, it's going to be too overwhelming for their role.
Fort Good Hope purchased a lot of firefighting equipment on the heels of the 2024 fire, the one that forced the community's evacuation. Masazumi says getting up a fire brigade to use that equipment could help save the homes of both people and wildlife, but for that to happen, the whole community will have to work together. Sarah St. Pierre, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Cost of living, healthcare, and housing. These are the issues that are concerning many Yukoners ahead of the territorial election, including people living in the remote community of Old Crow. Chris McIntyre reports.
Old Crow is small. There's one grocery store that is also the bank and the post office. The only one way in and out is by airplane. Residents use quads to get around more than cars. But the issues citizens will vote for here are the same as the rest of the territory. Paul Josie is a local entrepreneur and runs a few businesses in Old Crow.
I guess a lot of it goes around like healthcare and a lot of relation building with First Nation communities and the government. There's always been, and more recently now, a lot more issues with like the drugs and the homelessness and the support that we need for our community members, not only like in the communities, but in the city. We have a lot of people that are out there struggling and finding ways that will make it work for everyone, because it's a challenge right now and we just got to work together as it.
Stanley Grafton Ajuli has lived in Old Crow for the past 25 years. He says in a place where everything is expensive, it's getting harder and harder to afford groceries.
Cost of living is high in Old Crow as it is, and it keeps going up. especially with tariffs and all this other crap. So, like this thing of buble is like $6, and like you could buy it like a whole case for that in Whitehorse, and that's like seems really ridiculous to me. It has like no sugar in it, so you know.
What's the point?
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, like food prices are astronomical here.
The territorial election is November 3rd. Unlike the election in 2021, all three parties have a candidate running in the Vuntagwitchin riding, and all three are Vuntagwitchin women. Deborah Lee Rati is running for the Yukon Liberal Party. She previously sat as a council member for the Vuntagwitchin First Nation. Rati says she's advocating for more resources to improve local healthcare and infrastructure. She says a lot of good work has been done, but she's the right person to represent the riding.
All us women are coming from strong lines, and we all have a heart for our community. And we want to see change. And for me to join the Liberal Party, who's already been in, I want to help continue the work that they've been doing.
Sandra Charlie is the Yukon Party's candidate. Charlie says she decided to run for MLA out of the love for her community. She says her priorities are improving the quality of education and making healthcare more accessible and affordable.
I believe in Vuntagwitchin people, and whether you're a male or female running for MLA, we're going to be the voice for our land. We know the land, we know the area, we know our home. So I think it's just a great opportunity.
NDP incumbent Annie Blake says she wants to continue advocating for Old Crow residents and every Yukoner. She says she's been honored to represent the riding over the past 4 years. Blake says each candidate wants to win that right, but she says the community has already won.
I am just so excited that Vuntagwitchin has 3 strong women that are willing to put their name on the ballot, saying like, you know, you have a choice on who you choose to represent you in the Legislative Assembly. And we're women. That's something to be so proud of. Yeah, I'm excited.
Each candidate is in the community knocking on doors and sharing their party's platform. With the election 2 weeks away, no public forum has been announced in the community as of yet. Chris McIntyre, CBC News, Old Crow.
Each party running in the Yukon election says it has a plan for combating rising emissions. 2 say they'll keep the status quo, and one party says it's time to cut losses and start fresh. Julian Green explains.
The Liberals say reducing emissions is a key piece of their campaign. Liberal leader Mike Pemberton says if his party forms the next government, they'll stay the course. That looks like implementing the inherited climate strategy called Our Clean Future. That plan aspires to reduce emissions by 45% by 2030.
We probably won't hit that target, but we need to keep moving forward and doing the best we can do to limit greenhouse gas.
Yukon Party leader Curry Dixon says he'd introduce a new strategy. He accuses the former Liberal government of lip service.
Where the government has promised these great cuts in emissions, but have not done anything actually to achieve them.
Meanwhile, NDP leader Kate White is confident the 45% target will be hit.
Yeah, but it's not going to be easy.
Why?
Well, because I'm going to continue to make sure that I take the direction from the people who know better than me.
The 45% reduction target was a former campaign pledge by the NDP during the last election. It was ultimately folded into the Confidence of Supply Agreement, then implemented by the former Liberal government. Julian Green, CBC News, Whitehorse.
In Nunavut, an all-candidates debate in Cambridge Bay ahead of the territorial election has been cancelled. The event was sponsored by the Cambridge Bay Housing Association. Manager Vicky Eitauk told CBC the cancellation is due to her being overwhelmed. She says no mediator or MC was designated in time for the debate. Eitauk says another organization has since reached out to possibly take the lead. No date yet, though, for a rescheduled debate.
Hello, I'm Paul Andrews. Here's George Tuckaroo with the news.
Thanks, Paul. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Carol Morin.
That's Northbeat for tonight. I'm Nadira Bag. Good night.
Good evening. I'm Randy Henderson.
We start in the Northwest Territories.
Good evening, I'm Kate Kyle.
I'm Hillary Bird.
Shannon Scott.
Juanita Taylor, and this is Northbeat.
In the hamlet of Sigachik, Northwest Territories, life can be expensive. There's one store, and the community gets cut off during freeze-up and breakup. So it's important for people to learn on-the-land skills to help sustain themselves. That's the reasoning behind the hunting and harvesting coordinator position with the Gwich'in Band. We spoke to Phyllis Andre about her work on our recent trip to Sigachik. Phyllis, thank you so much for being here, for having us here, really. Tell me a little bit about the job that you do for the Gwich'in Band.
I am the hunting and harvesting coordinator, so we put on programs to help people be more self-sufficient, and also for food security. So that way we have all the traditional foods. We learn how to work with them properly by the elders and the local harvesters in the community.
Let's talk about that food security aspect. You know, it's a small community. We know in the north sometimes it can be really hard to get good, fresh food. So tell me how the hunting aspect of your job helps that within the community.
Well, we do, say we just had a moose hunt. We had 6 adults and the rest were youth. So every day we went out, and so the adults would show the youth how to hunt, how to track the moose. And then finally they did get a moose. One of the hunters got a moose, and so they got the kids involved to learning how to prepare, how to process the animal. And so when we got to town, it was there for the community, for the community to come and take what they wanted. So what was left over, we brought back to work. So we worked with it here, so that way the elders would get meat that was all ready for them to cook.
I bet they must have been so happy about that.
Yes, they are.
Tell me about how the programs that you run teach people to be self-sufficient.
Okay, so we have people local sewers or people, so we try to have different people all the time, just so that way when you're learning, you're not thinking that one way is the right way. So there's many different teachings, for example, if I was to cut fish and you were to cut fish, your fish is going to be different than mine, but we're going to come out with the same outcome. So we do that, we do sewing. We try to do sewing to teach them for hunting and traveling clothing. It all has to be useful, I guess. Yeah.
And why is that kind of programming important in Sigachik?
Just because the prices here are so expensive, and and we have to travel, and then we're in isolation for spring and fall, and it's just good for people to come out and join one another and interact and build bonds, try to bring the community closer together through programs.
What's your favorite part of your job?
Everything, because I get to all of these things. I like to be out on the land. I like to teach. I like to interact with people, and so this job gives me that opportunity to do the things that I love.
What is your hope for this program?
Well, I hope that it continues, and at first, when we first started it, we didn't have very many participants. So we started up a Facebook page, I guess, and then we did posters, and then the same group of people would come 3 or 4. And now every time we post something, it's a full program. So And we never turn anybody away. Like, if I said 10 spots, then, I would make it where everybody can join. We do have, I have a lot of plans. So the next one is a trapping workshop that we have planned. When I started working in November, I started trying to brainstorm what would be beneficial to people here, like how they can get their own fur, how they could get their own hides, sewing. So that's where all of these programs combine, to get them to do that. So we did get caribou in the spring. We kept all the hides. So we had a caribou hide tanning workshop. The ladies came, so now it's like when we were done, they just had to smoke their hides. So but each program kind of feeds off the next. So the trapping workshop that we're going to do is in hopes that younger people would come out and learn how to trap and get their own furs and, be more self-sufficient that way, not relying on other, hand-me-downs kind of thing. I want them to know how to do these things. Like, what if you set out to go somewhere, you broke down? I think of all those things. So there's that one, and there's also trail, opening all the traditional trails just so that way the younger generation knows, what's in their backyard. So, yeah.
There's a lot to look forward to.
Yes, there is. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, yeah. So we have a lot of direction from the elders in the community on what they want to see, the programs that they want to see come out of here. A big one is language. And we're still trying to work on language, incorporating language into the programs.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. I know how important language is for everyone. Thank you so much, Merci Phyllis, for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nunavut has a new TV news program in Inuit-led. Uvagut TV launched its new show last month. The CBC's Tommy Kaka has more.
Eric Anui is Uvagut TV's Director of Community News and Current Affairs. He said the news program will focus on Inuit across Canada.
These news and current affairs are going to be for Inuit and by Inuit.
Broadcasting in Inuktitut is vital to the preservation and enhancement of the language, says Lucy Tulugalchuk. She is the executive director of Nunavut Independent Television Network, which owns and operates Uvagut TV.
This Inuktitut language is really at an urgency in some locations of Inuit communities. So for those reasons, we had to find solutions because it was hard to find an Inuk who speaks Inuktitut fluent enough.
Hosted by Noah Papatsi, the show broadcasts on cable TV and satellite Monday and Wednesday at noon and repeat at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is also available on Facebook and YouTube. Tommy Kaka, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Team Nunavut's Gold Ulu has a new home in Toronto at the Hockey Hall of Fame. The Ulu marks a historic win for the territory at the 2023 Arctic Winter Games. Noel Kaludjak has more.
Team Nunavut made history at the 2023 Arctic Winter Games. The under-18 male hockey team defeated Alaska and brought home the territory's first gold in the sport. Now, the Gold Ulu will be on display at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto for everyone who visits to see, along with the team photo and the championship sweater. Longtime coach and hockey player David Clark was at the ceremonies last week, along with members of the championship team.
Not only for themselves, but their families, their communities, the Kivalliq region, our territory. It's a very special occasion, and I think it all goes back to the players.
It is Clark's Gold Ulu that will be on display. The Mimico Minor Hockey Organization, based in Toronto, worked hard to get it there. The organization has been involved with youth hockey exchanges with Rankin Inlet for years. A longtime volunteer and coach, Lee Barter, says he was proud to help the Ulu find a new home.
And as soon as they won, everyone was excited to talk to one another and share the memories and talk about how we'd been in touch and sharing those memories. So way down in Toronto, we were cheering for Rankin Inlet, cheering for our friends in Rankin Inlet, and cheering, of course, for Nunavut for winning the Gold Ulu.
Players from the winning team and their parents watched the ceremonies and celebrated as the Gold Ulu was honored in Toronto. It will be on display there for years to come. Noel Kaludjak, CBC News, Rankin Inlet.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. We leave you tonight with a look along the Ingram Trail near Yellowknife. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.